Hi, I'm Amber, and I've moved from the UK to the US aged 28 with my husband Josh and our little boy Rory. I'm on a mission to explore the American culture and all of the differences from our old life in the UK. So join me as I travel around the States, seeing the sights, eating the food, and meeting the people, with some very special tour guides along the way. And to say thank you to the country that's welcomed my family, I'll be collecting lots of mementos and raising funds for some wonderful American charities. So be sure to hit subscribe and follow me on Instagram and TikTok as I discover the land of opportunity.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to Amber in America Part 4. I think we're on Part 4.
So fun.
I know. I am in Jupiter today, which is about an hour and a half-ish north of where I live in Fort Lauderdale. And I am here with Mackenzie Marsh. Mm-hmm. Thank you for letting me hang out with you first of all.
Course.
I'm super looking forward to today because Mackenzie is going to show us around this beautiful area that I've never been before. Yeah. So we're going to do a bit of exploring. We're going to do... hopefully try some different food and see the area, and you have so many recommendations for around here, right? And then we're also going to talk about religion because Mackenzie keeps faith, and she, I feel like, is a really good representation of the religious culture in America, and I'm so interested to get to know more about it and how that differs to where I'm from back home. So we're going to just get started though with a cup of tea, like I do with all of my guests.
I love it. I love that you start with that. That's so good.
I know, we're starting with a cup of tea, but Spoiler,
I have tea straight from the UK in my closet because I need it.
Yeah, because you lived in the UK for...
I lived in Oxford for 5 months at the beginning of last year. So almost to the day, this time last year. Moved abroad.
Wow.
Kind of on a whim. I was like, let's go.
But just because? Were you traveling? Were you working? What prompted it?
I was working abroad. I work remotely, so I do like content creation full time.
Cool.
And I had kind of been jumping around from place to place, didn't have a stable place to live. And the friend who I was supposed to live with was like, I think I'm going to move abroad. I was like, well, I don't really
Why
have a
the hell
home.
not?
Why not go? So moved, kind of told my parents probably 2 weeks beforehand and was like, bye everyone. Didn't tell anyone I was really going at all.
That's amazing.
And then we rented a house for 5 months and that was in Oxford.
Oxford is really beautiful. Oxford is like south of England, nearish to London. Right. Everybody's like, where is it in relation to London? Nearish
like
to London.
45-minute train ride. It was perfect.
But it's beautiful. You have all like the old world architecture and stuff. And were you there when there was like the boat race or any of that kind of stuff?
So we lived probably like 2 miles outside of town, which was kind of a lot. But we walked the Thames River every single day. So we saw tons of regattas and things like that.
Amazing. It's a beautiful place. But let's roll back to even before then, because we're in Jupiter now, but I want to hear about your life growing up. Give me the whistle-stop tour.
Okay, so I was born down by you, actually, in Pembroke Pines.
Okay.
And moved from there when I was 1 year old, so not too old, and moved to a small town, North Carolina, one stoplight type of town. My family lived there for 10 years. That's where I really said I was from all of my life.
Right.
I feel like I got who I am a lot today.
Your childhood there was a lot.
Right.
Tea on the stove.
On the stove.
Kettle stove.
Grew up in North Carolina, loved it there. We still have a house up in Virginia and go up every summer, and I just feel my most self there for sure. Moved back down to Florida when I was 11. I moved kicking and screaming. I did not want to move here.
Really?
Not at all.
Obviously, you had no memory of here at all. You'd left before you even knew what was going on.
And my family took me to a private rich kid school, which I'm very grateful now. It's a private Christian school, but I came from a small town. Everything was so simple. You knew all your neighbors. It was a great place to be raised. Moved to a place where kids are driving Mercedes-Benzes and have so much money they don't even know what to do with. And I'm like, I am fish out of water here.
Yeah.
Do not want to be here.
Imposter syndrome.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So spent all my high school years growing up there, was dead set on, I'm going to college out of state. That's going to fix everything.
Yeah.
I don't like Florida. I'm going to go to the South. I loved the South. Went to college at Georgia Southern. Was like, yes, I made it. I got out of state. It didn't fill the void that I wanted in my life. I was like, yeah, it's going to solve everything. It didn't. I spent 10 years being bitter for nothing, which is so silly now looking back. I'm like, why did I do that?
Everybody goes through that at school.
Right, exactly.
You're always hate the world. I don't know what it is about being a teenager as well. It's
I'm like, come on.
You don't realize how good you might have it sometimes.
Exactly. And now looking back, I'm like, oh, I was so blessed for so many things that I got to be able to do.
Yeah.
But graduated from there, didn't want to move back to Florida. Still was like, I don't really like it. Wanted to move to Tennessee.
Tennessee.
And then
was there any rhyme or reason for that, or?
It was super southern and country, and I was like, yeah, I love it.
Right.
So I was like, Music City, love that area. And then my ex-boyfriend and I were together about 4 years at that point, and he was planning to take over a family business. So he was like, if you want to ever get married, you'll move back to West Palm. We met in high school.
Okay.
He's like, you'll move back. We'd been doing long distance for 3 years at that point. We went to separate colleges. And so I moved back to West Palm.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. I graduated a semester before him, so he wasn't yet moved back, which I lived in Lake Worth, which is about, I guess, like 45 minutes to an hour south of here.
Right.
And then the second he graduated, we broke up. And at that point, I had already loved Florida, so I was staying.
That was it. You were here.
Yep.
And then how did you get from there to here then? Because Jupiter is a neighboring town to West Palm, but it's still a very different vibe.
It absolutely is. So through that transition, when we broke up, I was living at his family's house. Okay. No one was living there. I pretty much had a house to myself, which was great. We broke up. He said, get out of my house. And I'm like,
fair enough. That's fair enough.
Right,
I feel like that's,
Yeah. I'm like, oh man, now I have nowhere to live. So I spent probably 5 months sleeping on friends' couches, having no idea, like, do I want to move back to North Carolina? Do I want to now go to Nashville? What do I want to do with my life? And I felt very called to stay here, but I didn't know if that was what I was supposed to do at that given time.
Right.
So when my friend approached me, probably like 3 months into the jumping around from friends' houses, and said, do you want to move abroad for a second?
Right, that felt like a restart.
Yeah, right, I can go abroad, I can kind of heal over there, reset a lot, and it's not permanent. I know I can't live abroad permanently. So spent 5 months there, moved back, and this just kind of fell into place, and it's been perfect up here. I love it. It's a really good balance of, we have horses in the backyard, which I'm sure we'll show you guys.
Definitely.
It's a good balance of kind of feeling a little bit like North Carolina, but it's still everything that I love about
you
Florida
have a bit of sanctuary here. I said to Mackenzie when I arrived, if you'd watched my first episode, obviously I talked about being raised on a farm, and I haven't had that kind of, it's funny, I'm definitely a city girl, trapped in the country growing up, but there's just something about when you drive somewhere that has all the open space, the greenery, the animals, the farmland, I just kind of go, without even realizing, and I guess that's the same for you coming from North Carolina.
Yeah, exactly.
This was like your balance, your compromise.
Right, exactly.
I love it, it's beautiful.
It's been great up here, and we're still like 15 minutes from the beach, so not far from the beach, but secluded. You can see the stars out here, which you can't really anywhere in South Florida.
True.
So
yeah.
It's been great.
Nice.
Being up here and out here.
Okay, let's make tea.
Amazing.
I'm gonna let you make your tea because I feel like I would get trolled for the way I make tea, to be honest, because I do milk first. And I know it's a sin. I know I'm a minority.
Okay, wait. How do you do milk first with the? Okay, I want to watch you make tea. So you put milk in first. No, I want to do it like you do.
Okay. So. Yeah. I don't know why. This is how my family always did it. And so this is how I always did it. But I was aware at a very young age that this is the wrong way to do it. And my husband still to this day is like, whenever I make him a tea like this, honestly, I joke about tea. We're not big tea drinkers. We'll have like 3 or 4 a week, which is not a lot compared to most people in the UK. But if I make him a tea like this, he's still like, what are you doing? And then drinks it. He's like, okay, that's good.
Okay, that's good.
I can deal with that. We're in Jupiter. Tell us exactly where we are.
We're on the Intercoastal right now. This felt like the most Jupiter spot to be brought because we are here. And the lighthouse is in the background, and it's beautiful here.
It's stunning. I feel like I'm in holiday.
Coming here for like happy hour drinks or something like that when the sun's setting.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
There's a lot of like restaurants and bars down here. Some yachts, of course.
Obviously, it's not South Florida without yachts. Yeah, so I actually, even though I grew up in Wellington, I grew up probably 50 minutes from right here.
Okay.
I would drive up to Jupiter all of the time. Even at 14, I played lacrosse. There's a park right underneath there, and that's where I played sports growing up. So my poor parents would have to commute me up here like 3 days a week. I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry.
I mean, there's plenty of places for them to hang out, aren't there?
Right, exactly. But even the second I got my license, I was always in Jupiter. I love it up here.
It's so nice. And I've been to Jupiter a couple of times, but not to look around. So this is my first real taste. And I do feel like I've stepped into a holiday magazine and I love it.
Exactly.
But it's very slow. Like people live a more like slow life up here compared to West Palm. And it's like lots of locals. I noticed on like Saturdays I would go to a park and like everyone's out like doing service work, picking up trash, like Saturday mornings.
I love that.
It's the first Saturday of every month, like everyone does a beach cleanup. And I was like, wow. Like I just went to a sunrise and was like,
people are cleaning up
this
around
is
here.
great.
Oh my
Like,
God, I love that.
awesome. Yeah.
I need to get involved in that kind of stuff. So, okay, we're in Jupiter now. We're going to go to West Palm, but I want to hear, let's walk and talk. I want to hear your, which side? I know, I'm right-handed. I want to hear your Jupiter recommendation. So I know you're a beach girl, so we'll start with beaches.
Yes.
Best beaches, vibes of beaches around here.
Juneau Beach is great because it has so many different access points. I randomly go to access 33. I don't know why. We just picked a spot and that seems to be it.
That's the spot that stuck? Okay.
It does. But it's like the whole long stretch of the beach, whereas I feel like other beaches are like one spot and you kind of have to stay. So it is nice to kind of break it up.
Yeah.
It's also a dog beach, which is awesome.
Nice.
But if you mind dogs running up to you, super sandy,
Not the one
maybe
for you.
avoid there. Yeah. Love that beach. There's also a spot called Cato's Bridge, which has become so mainstream, which is kind of frustrating because
you found it first.
Oh my gosh, I've been going since I was 14, so almost for a decade. We used to go to lacrosse games and then go to Cato's afterwards. And it's basically just like a bridge like you crossed, and it's just like really blue water in the inlet, and I don't know, it's great.
Yeah.
There used to be a hammock that was right there.
Oh, that would have been
Love
so
Street.
cute.
And then
Love
like
Street.
end of Love Street is like hammock, and then that's just like a beautiful view.
I'm already in love. Love Street. Oh, I see there's a boat over there that says Love Street on it. That's cute.
Yep.
Okay.
So
that's your like beachy spots. What about other things to do?
And then other things to do. I'm like, what do I do here?
I know. All of your content, you're like on the beach. I'm like, okay, that is completely fine. If I'm here and that's where I need to be, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, do a lot of beach. My family did have a boat growing up, so we would go on the boat a lot, which was great. Yeah, lots of beach. We'll go on a lot of walks. Love going on a walk.
Is there, obviously where you live is way more outdoorsy than anything I've seen.
Yes, absolutely.
By outdoorsy, obviously I know beach is outdoorsy, but I mean greenery,
right,
forest,
exactly.
a little bit of trees, you know, which I definitely miss about here. So are there there's a bit more hiking culture around here?
Yes, and there's a park like not too far from my house too, like literally right around the corner.
Okay.
So we'll go and hike, or not hike, but go on a little walk there, which is nice.
And then food and drink. Yes. Where are your hot spots?
Love acai bowls. That seems like a Jupiter. Have you had an acai bowl yet?
I haven't had one here. I've had them before, but I haven't had one here, and I expect them to be like super fresh.
We might need to go get an acai bowl.
Okay, we'll get one of those today. That sounds like a plan.
Lunch. That sounds great.
Yeah.
Acai bowls. Elements is right across from Juneau Beach. They're fantastic.
Can we walk down?
Yep. They're so good. Papa Kwan's is also another really good spot. Three Natives is like the go-to. It feels like I've been going there for years.
Three Natives, okay.
Yes, I think I went to Three Natives for the first time when I was like 12, and no one knew about acai bowls, and I was eating acai bowls, and I'm like,
I know. I feel like they're very like wellness trendy now, but I genuinely enjoy them. We've had a few. Again, it's not as much of a thing in the UK. It's getting more of a thing, but the fresh fruit is kind of something you want in the summertime, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's becoming more of a thing, and I love them.
Right.
They're so fresh.
So good.
I want to try a Floridian one.
Yes, those are probably the best spots. There's a place in West Palm called Joe Bistro too. It's pretty good. For
like evenings heading out drinks.
Yes, Dive Bar is probably my favorite place for like a happy hour.
And is it like a dive bar? That's so American.
Honestly, no, not at all.
Okay.
It's right around the corner too. It's not even like super aesthetic. It's on the water, but they have 50% off sushi for happy hour and 50% off wine. So I get 2 sushi rolls and a glass of wine, and it's $12.
Wow, that's impossible around here.
Yeah,
that's so good. Okay,
so
sold.
I love a happy hour so much. Utiki, which is right around the corner too. They're closed right now because it's the middle of the day. But
so yeah, somebody has told me that happy hour in Florida is like, I mean, they're everywhere for one.
Everywhere.
You can get happy hour everywhere. So if you can get out at the right time, you really can make it worthwhile.
Right, and it's so much cheaper.
Look at how stunning this is. I'm actually really pleased that you brought me here.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
This feels like somewhere that we could go for a date day.
This is Square Grouper, so this is like an actual bar. Like people will like go out there. I think it's open till midnight, 2 a.m., something like that.
Okay.
So it's like so much better than like going out clubbing or whatever.
Yeah.
Not my vibe.
You can just sit by the water. It's still warm in the evening.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
Oh my God,
have
I'm
a drink,
so sold.
which is nice.
Okay.
Yeah, and then this is the Pelican Club. A ton of people get married there.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a gorgeous spot to get married.
Right. I don't know what's up with the construction. That road has been shut down forever. I think everyone in Jupiter has a problem with that one right now.
No, I very nearly missed that turn. But
I'm like, ugh, so annoying.
Amazing.
And then right across, I'm going to plug it because I can.
Plug it, girl.
Really good margaritas and like Mexican food. Calaveras, which is there's one down south in Delray, I think actually.
Calaveras.
Yes.
Got it.
And then there's one right around the corner. 2 from here, which is really good.
If there's one thing that me and Josh love, it's a margarita.
Okay, they have guava margaritas too, and
I've
such
never
a
had
guava
one of
sucker.
those.
Oh, they're so good.
That's for me. That sounds like a bit of me.
They're a little
I'm going to have to
dangerous.
bring him up here for a date day.
That is one in Delray. There's
Yeah.
Canaveras in Delray too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's way closer to us.
Right, exactly.
Not that this is like out of reach, but
Yeah.
it's further.
Where else? For like breakfast, Perk is so good. It feels like a usual spot. Go there often. I don't eat out a ton. Everyone who like meets me is like,
You're American, you don't eat out 3 meals a day?
Literally.
I just need to catch, like, look at this
the view of all of this.
vibe. Sitting on the sand, looking out across the water,
I know.
living
It's so
in
nice.
a vacation.
It's finally nice out, so everyone's probably
I know, that's true.
Thursday work? Nah.
That's it. That is quite busy to say it's the middle of the day,
Right.
weekday.
right.
But I'm guessing it's because they haven't
nice
seen
out.
the sun for a couple
Right,
days.
exactly. We get so many seasoners here, so everyone comes down. This is our season in January to probably March, and they've probably been so annoyed that it's not nice out.
No, I feel you because we moved here for the sunshine, and the last couple of weeks is
Rain,
still
and
warm.
rain,
It's
and
just
rain.
been rain and cloud and warm, but not able to go outside.
Exactly.
So I'm loving this. Okay, so we're going to head to West Palm now and do a little bit of a highlights reel for that too.
We can do that. It's
Let's
a little
go.
more walkable, which is nice. So.
Nice. Okay, let's go. Oh, we've decided to stop for a little lunch break before we hit up West Palm.
Yep.
So where are we and why are we here?
We're at Papa Kwan's in Juneau Beach because it's amazing and it's fast.
Yeah.
It's just like 3 Natives is great. It's not as much of like a vibe experience. I love this place.
So
It's
we just went into order. Obviously, you can probably hear in the background the like Jamaican
Super,
music. I love
yeah,
it, love
right.
it. And we just went into order, and I've been told I need to try the acai bowls here, and I am here for that.
Mm-hmm.
You get given like a little sheet. I should have filmed that actually. You get given a little sheet, and you just circle what you want, so you can proper customize it, and it feels really beachy in there.
Yeah. And the
Full
beach is
vibes.
right there.
I
So it's
saw
really
on the maps when
close.
we were driving. So you can have a little beach day, pop here for lunch.
Yep.
My kind
so
of vibes.
good, exactly. I know, Juneau Beach is nice for that.
Yeah.
It's very similar, like Juneau Beach and Jupiter, in my brain, half the same thing.
Right,
so
right.
Jupiter, Juneau Beach, Gardens. I really hardly go further south than Gardens
Because
anymore.
there's no need.
No.
You've got it all right on your doorstep.
Right, exactly.
So beautiful.
That's great.
Okay, whilst we're waiting for our food, you've mentioned a couple of times, obviously, that you're a full-time content creator. You've been doing that for how many years now?
Full-time, almost 2.
Okay, full-time, almost 2, but you also have a business.
I do, yes.
Tell me more about the business,
Yes.
please.
So when I first started my Instagram account, I started 4 years ago, almost to date, and I launched it as Jesus People Places. I created a new Instagram account, and I was like, I want to be a blogger, something of that sort. Started a blog, started a website, and was like, it was kind of the first time my ex and I broke up, and I was like, I just want to share about Jesus, but like also kind of be a fashion blogger. Fashion blogger world was not for me whatsoever. I don't know how I survived in that.
Pretty cutthroat, I hear.
Right, and I was also a broke college student. So how was I supposed to afford
Affording clothes?
I was not, exactly. So kind of had that as my username, but it wasn't really anything more than kind of just that.
Yep.
And then when I moved down to Florida, I moved before my ex-boyfriend, so I moved back not knowing anyone. Even though I was from here, I didn't stay in touch with anyone from high school. So I posted a video on TikTok essentially saying, yeah, like I'm about to try out a new church. Like I just kind of want to film what post-grad life is. Because it's so hard in your 20s to make friends. And I don't really I don't drink a ton. I don't go out. I was like, and people say to do that, or they say to go to workout classes. I'm like, I just graduated college last week. I don't have money for like a super expensive workout class or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I posted that TikTok. It got over 200,000 views.
Amazing.
And over 200 girls from the area messaged me and were like, oh my gosh, I'm in this exact same boat. What the heck?
It's such a hack. Social
exactly.
media, I know, gets a lot of negativity, but it is such a hack for meeting people and networking.
No, you're good. You're good.
Did you have a question? Oh, he would have been great in the video.
No. He goes, nope.
Nope. Let's just saw the cameras
Like,
like
that's
no.
funny.
No,
You guys took a picture of me last time I was here.
okay, social media is such a hack for meeting people because making friends as an adult is really bloody hard.
Difficult. So difficult. So I did that and it was great. I was working a full-time job at the time. So I started that job at 7 a.m. every morning. So I was up early. So I was up at 5 every morning, but I luckily got off work at like 3:30, which was great. But after I posted that video, I was going on coffee dates, I was going on dinner dates, whatever, like all of the time with people. one, I was going broke from that, of like meeting up with girls every single night. Two, my schedule was getting so busy where it was like, okay, I have to now, like, I'm not really making friends.
Yeah, you have no time for yourself.
Beautiful.
I'm so excited.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Oh, we got our little sheets
I
too.
know, so you can film that.
Ha ha ha, there's my little sheet. Look how fresh this looks.
I know. So exciting. So essentially I was doing that and I'm like, I'm not really making friends. I'm going out to eat with girls and like getting to know them, but I was like forgetting girls' names. And I'm like, I feel so bad, but like, I'm not making community. I want community. I'm kind of just having like, oh, the people you catch up with once a month now. And I'm like, this was not my goal. And so February kind of hit and I'm like, well, all of these girls want the same thing. They all want friends. I do too. And like, this is kind of working, not really. So I decided to start hosting events. And I was like, okay, I just kind of made a group chat eventually. And I was like, anyone who wants to come, I'm just like throwing a picnic on the beach, which I'm redoing again this year.
Oh,
and it was like a Galentine's picnic. And like 35 girls showed up to that.
That's amazing.
None of which knew anyone who was going there. And I was like, it takes such boldness for girls to do that. I'm like, that's so cool. But I'm like, this is clearly an issue.
100%.
I'm like, how can I meet that need? How can I continue to do that? So I started hosting like monthly events that were like kind of smaller and then eventually started charging for events, which I'm still trying to figure out like how to do that, what to do with that, because it's like, great, once you have friends, then it's like, you don't really have a need for it anymore. So kind of figuring out that balance. But through that, I eventually then like led a discipleship group, and it was like 10 of us who were going through a book called Find Your People. And if anyone's looking for community, it's the best book ever. It teaches you like practically how to find good friends.
Is this a religious book or not a religious book?
The author is Christian, but it's not like super religious at all.
Oh,
It just like very practically goes through it, and she does a study of like a 12-week study. So a group of 10 of us and I went through this 12-week study of how to find your people and like have those people be your people. And in going through that, we all got so close, obviously. So it was great. And now most girls in that group are like my best friends.
I need some of this because
Yeah.
I'm definitely in that boat right now, and I feel like you've really filled a gap in the market, or you're working to fill a gap in the market and constantly iterating whatever, because making friends as an adult is hard. One, you can go to all of these networking social events like you say, but you don't make those bonds, those like deep bonds, and I miss having that so much. And everybody says to me, well, what about the school moms, because obviously I have a little boy in preschool. It's like, that doesn't, just because we both have a baby doesn't necessarily mean we have anything in common.
We're gonna click, right?
So finding your people is way more than just meeting people. Like, it's much deeper than that. Okay, we've gone about 30 minutes down the coast from Jupiter, and we are now in Palm Beach Island.
Yep, we're on Palm
I don't
Beach
want to say it
Island.
wrong. So we drove through West Palm Beach,
Yes.
which is felt to me, correct me if I'm wrong, more built up, more maybe affluent. The yachts were bigger.
The yachts are definitely
The
bigger.
yachts were bigger out here. So tell me about where we are now.
Palm Beach is like, as we pass a literal like yacht brokerage place right next
Oh my
to
God,
us.
yeah. There we go.
Palm Beach is definitely like top 0.01% of the world. Like,
Amazing.
we are walking past really nice cars. We're passing a Porsche right now. We're gonna pass by Gucci and literally every single designer store. We're on Worth Avenue right now.
Yeah.
We used to run to the beach. I think I would get in my car, maybe had sandals on and a bathing suit and run to that beach, which is funny that it's a couple blocks away from a place like this.
Yeah.
So Palm Beach is very interesting, I will say, but
And
it's a unique experience.
talk to me about house prices and the kind of people that live around here.
Oh my gosh. Most people who live around here are seasonal livers. They
Okay.
maybe live in their house on Palm Beach. That's probably like $50 million for 1 month out of the year.
How the other half live, huh?
Right. 1 month out of the year people are down here. So
It's crazy.
it's really only busy in December, January. So we're here during busy season, but
Yeah, and
aside
it's
from
still,
that,
I know this is a weekday, but it's
Right.
really not, like, we're not crowded. It's
No,
got a
it's not too
nice, really nice vibe. All of the buildings are actually very beautiful.
there's certain areas we'll walk down, like little back roads of Worth Avenue that look very similar to Italy.
Okay.
Which is beautiful, which is the parts that I love
Yeah,
of it.
it does very European upmarket Italy kind of vibes, yeah.
Absolutely, but you'll walk around and you'll see people with a ton of Botox and whatever else. It's funny. I love people watching down here.
Oh
You're like,
yeah, I bet
these
this is a
people are
great place
made
to
of money.
sit and have coffee, yeah,
Made of
people
money.
watch. So talk to me, because this is only half an hour from where we just were, and it feels very different.
Very different. Palm Beach County is crazy how there's so many different areas and markets. People have, if you look up news articles that are probably poor about Palm Beach County, they're like, it's crazy because if you go super far west, Belle Glade is like one of the poorest cities ever.
Really?
Ever. People go on like missions trips and things like that there. And then you come all the way east to Palm Beach Island, which is equivalent to your high-end parts of New York or
Literally
LA or whatever.
That's really sad. In fact, that's something that my dad pointed out when he came to visit, actually. It's like you do very much have the bottom and the top.
You do, entirely.
And a huge gap in between.
Right. And then West Palm is directly west of us, but a town right north of that is Riviera. That's like one of the top 5 dangerous cities in America.
Really?
Yep.
That was
Just
something
right that close.
That was something we worried about when we were moving, actually, because it's not knowing. It's not knowing, are we on a good street or a bad street? And sometimes you can't tell from the outside.
No, not at all.
It's just at night when it gets a bit sketchy.
I know.
This is beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's all very clean, very well kept. So here versus Jupiter then, pros and cons, why am I coming here and not there, or vice versa? Like what?
Great place to see, travel, obviously, Worth Avenue. It was just kind of those spots where you got to see it.
Yep.
And then past that, it's like, okay,
Hope
cool.
that you bump into someone famous.
Right, exactly. You probably would hardly recognize them. But the beach here is beautiful. Costs $7 to park on the street, though.
Yeah.
There is some free parking here.
Hard to find, but
Right, exactly.
worth finding.
Right. But just totally different things you're getting from Palm Beach compared to Worth Avenue.
Okay.
Or compared to Jupiter.
Compared to Jupiter,
A
yeah.
little slower, more like surfer vibes than Jupiter.
So as you've grown up and you have visited more often, then what are your things to do here, or places that you really ought to visit if you're in the area?
On the island, there's a brunch breakfast place. It's a diner called Surfside Diner.
Surfside
I love
Diner.
it. It's right down that street over there.
Okay.
It's just adorable. So cute. Again, people watching there is the best. Really just walking up and down the street that we're on right now is beautiful because, again, people watching is great.
100%.
Kind of window shop, things like that. And then, I'm trying to think what else on the island. The Colony Hotel.
Oh my goodness, the
Beautiful.
dog with the
This
tutu.
dog. Show this dog.
Hi. Can I get him on camera? Hi. You're so cute. That's adorable.
That's so precious.
Hi.
Trying to think what else. I feel like mostly the beach here.
Mostly
There's
the beach.
also a brunch place that called Celis Produce on the island. They have the best sandwiches ever. They also have very good acai.
Okay.
And then over there is also Honor Bar, which is a really good. I like going for lunch. They have this one salad that's fantastic. I normally wouldn't rave about a salad, but it's so good. And then...
And you're coming here to drop a lot of money if you have it.
Yes, exactly. If you have it. If not, you're
Is it
just-
possible to come here on a budget? Or not really, unless you're just going to the beach.
Not to stay on Palm Beach.
Not to eat
stay
or
in
drink.
West Palm.
Yeah.
Right. You can. Like, Celis Produce is pretty affordable.
Okay.
Honor Bar isn't bad for lunch, affordability-wise. Yeah. Not too horrible.
It's beautiful. I'm trying to think where I've been, particularly in Italy, that I feel like I'm transported
similar,
there
right.
now. Yeah, definitely. One day people will be shopping here.
Exactly.
Might be when I'm old and grey, but we'll get there.
Okay.
And what about West Palm then, very briefly? Because if you're here, you may as well go to West Palm
Right,
too,
exactly.
right? So
It's basically right across the bridge.
Yeah.
West Palm is great. Rosemary Square is beautiful. They
Okay.
just put in a ton of money to that area. It used to be not so great, not so safe, and in the midst of COVID, they dumped, I think, like $30 million or something crazy into it.
Vast improvement.
Right, exactly, and just redid all of it. Clematis Street is a hit or miss. They have the green markets here Saturday
okay.
when it's coolerish out, so they don't run it during summer, but the green markets are such a fun time there. I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, just walking down Clematis, walking down like Flagler Drive over there. It's so beautiful. Everyone seems to love Pura Vida, which is a restaurant. They have it down in Miami too.
I've heard of Pura Vida actually. I've heard people recommend that. I've never been, but
It's overpriced. The coffee sucks. Sorry, I'm bashing on Pura Vida, but it's very aesthetic. So all the aesthetic Instagram girls love it.
Right. It makes for good photos. In fact, I think there's one in Fort Lauderdale. I'm sure I've walked past it.
My biggest recommendation is Loic, I don't know how you say it. It's a French bakery in West Palm.
Sold
And
already.
It is the only place I found where like the gluten doesn't upset my stomach or like the dairy, whatever. The
So
owner
it's well sourced.
is well sourced. The owner is very French, so he does a very good job at, I think he definitely like imports everything over here.
Yeah.
And gets the good stuff, which is amazing. They have a pistachio croissant. So good.
You're making me hungry. We just ate that acai bowl. I'm like, I could do a pistachio croissant right now. This is beautiful. Is that Birkins? Oh my God.
Yeah. Right, just all the kind of like back alleyways that are just look just like Italy.
Okay, more tea.
More tea.
More tea to fuel the day, although it's decaf.
It's
so
decaf,
that's
right.
Nonsense.
It's still, it works. It's more up here that it works, but
Right,
it works.
yeah. Yeah, psychological, definitely. So it's January, people. People ask me why I've moved to America. Here it is. Well, Florida anyway, the Sunshine State.
You're going to get a little bit of a tan while it's 11 a.m. in
I
January.
hope so. Yeah, I really hope so, because the winter hasn't been great so far.
No, it hasn't.
It's been
we were
a little
just talking
bit,
about that.
It's been a little bit disappointing, honestly. So, but yeah, we're sat here. You have such a beautiful garden. 2 horses in the back.
Yeah, this is Spring and Goober.
Spring and Goober. Oh my gosh. Do you have Goober jam here?
Nope.
Goober is a brand in the UK.
No, we do not.
I wonder where the name Goober came from.
Right.
Goober.
I think the horse was named before she got it.
Oh,
That's
okay,
her
fair.
horse. Maybe. I don't know. It's kind of a random name for a horse.
Very random, but yeah, that's a brand in the UK, and it also means like silly. Like if you're a goober, you're a bit silly.
Yes.
That's the same. Okay,
Yes,
fine.
that one is the same.
Okay, so I want to ask you, obviously, for anybody that doesn't follow you on social media, your social media presence, there's a lot of travel, there's a lot of like beautiful places in the world that you've been fortunate enough to go, and we've talked a little bit about that earlier today. But there's also a lot of faith and religion and your journey through faith as well. So I want to ask you a little bit more about when that started.
Yep.
Is this from your parents? Is this a journey you've gone on yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So my story is kind of a little bit all over the place. I grew up starting from the beginning, I guess, I grew up Southern Baptist, which is interesting.
I've never even heard of that.
Faith in the South is interesting, to say the least.
Okay.
Everyone within the like southern states, which Florida's kind of excluded from that, just is a Christian.
Okay.
Just because everyone is. They kind of go to church on Sundays, everyone puts themselves in like a really nice dress to the nines, and you're supposed to do the right things, quote unquote. Like that's just kind of the right thing to do.
Okay.
Not a ton of people actually have that like foundation relationship with the Lord, but it's very showy.
Okay.
And that's kind of the environment I grew up in a little bit. My parents weren't really religious whatsoever. My dad grew up Catholic, but it wasn't something that was like drilled into me as a kid. We spent most of our weekends at our lake house instead of going to church, which that just kind of was what it was.
Yeah.
When I moved to Florida when I was 11, my parents put me in a private Christian school, mostly because it was a good school, not because of the Christian aspects whatsoever. Through that, I started hearing about the Lord, but when I went, I think my brother or I, it was definitely my brother, not to throw him under the bus, we had to take an exam, like an entrance exam to get into that private school, and they asked about Jesus. And my brother goes, who's Jesus? Like, we had no background whatsoever.
Okay.
Which was, now it's funny looking back, because he also very much loves the Lord.
Oh, really?
So went to that private Christian school, heard a lot about Jesus, but not many people who graduated from that school have much of a relationship with the Lord anymore.
I want to ask about your school, because I don't think I've ever said this before, but I went to a Church of England primary school. So from like 4 till 11, I was at a Church of England school. We did church services. We had assemblies in the morning where we would sing hymns. We would do the Lord's Prayer. We would say grace before lunch. But that was kind of the extent of it. We weren't really taught. Like we had a subject called RE, religious education, and you have that for your whole school life, no matter where you go to school. But we weren't, like it was very like top level. We weren't really taught. So is that different here? Was it more?
No, it was very similar, where we would have kind of like worship songs and a little bit of like a chapel on every Wednesday. People were just like, it's an excuse to get out of a class a day. Awesome, great.
Right.
Prayer was incorporated a lot, but certain teachers were really sold on it and loved the Lord. Others weren't. Certain students really had a foundation with the Lord. Others didn't. It was kind of, it depended. Really depended.
You could take what you wanted from it.
Right, exactly. I went to a very secular elementary school. So when I made the switch where people started talking about God created the world, that was really foreign to me. That was probably the biggest jump that I had to face, because I'd grown up believing about the Big Bang Theory and that the earth is billions of years old. And I'm like, oh, what do you mean that now we believe that like God created the earth? Like that's crazy. That seemed like a really foreign topic to me at that time.
Yeah.
I really did not get into my faith. I dabbled in it a little bit growing up, but it was like when it was convenient for me, I pursued it. But when it wasn't, when I had a boyfriend who didn't want to go to church or something like that,
you would quite happily just give and take.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I got baptized when I was 14 because I was really sold on it then for about 6 months till I started dating my ex-boyfriend.
Okay.
I was like, great, this is awesome. But went to church most Sundays unless my family had sports, whether my brother was playing sports or I was. That seemed to always take over our weekends growing up.
Okay.
And then I moved away to college, and my sophomore year, I went through a really bad breakup. I was like, what the heck am I supposed to do? Mm-hmm. I feel like my purpose was placed in sports as a kid. Now that's stripped from me. Then it was placed in my friendships. I moved to school out of state. I didn't know anyone.
Yeah.
That was stripped from me. And then this boyfriend that I thought I was going to marry is now gone.
Yeah.
That's now stripped from me. And it felt like everything in my life was just completely taken from me.
Right.
And I'm like, I have
Feeling very
no
lost.
identity. I have no identity. I have no idea who I am. And within that amount of time, I was able to place my identity in the Lord and figure out what the Lord says about me can actually be my identity. And
that was something that you pursued yourself at the time?
Right, exactly.
You were like, okay, this is the direction that I'm going to go down.
Yeah, one of my best friends from high school did a very good job at leading me that way.
Okay.
Where I probably wanted to just run and spiral into depression after getting broken up with or anything like that. But it was a good thing to pull me out of that, make me believe that I have a purpose outside of feeling completely broken and completely alone. My identity is not in what a boy says about me or what my friends say about me or what someone on social media says about me. It's in my loving Heavenly Father, what He says about me, which was really cool.
Okay, so for you it was a way not to spiral into that depression. It was a way of channeling things in a positive manner.
Right, exactly.
That's how it started.
Yeah,
okay.
That's how it started. And then it morphed from there throughout the years. It was definitely growing. And then I went through another breakup with the same boy. Go figure.
Oh no. Don't go back. Once he's gone, he's gone, girls.
That is, if you take anything from this podcast, from this episode, don't go back to your ex-boyfriend. That's what that one is for. We got back together. We broke up again, I guess a year and a half ago.
Right.
And at that point, he had already bought an engagement ring.
Oh.
We were like set. Like, this is exactly the way my life's going to go. And I went through the exact same thing of I had my life planned out. I was ready to be a wife later that year. It was supposed to be this year. I was ready to have kids. I was ready to do all of it. And then in 2 seconds, my life was completely uprooted. I didn't have a home. I had just quit my job to do social media full time. So now I'm trying to figure out income. I don't have the man I thought I was going to marry. My friendships started falling apart again. Literally, my life was just completely uprooted. And I realized how fragile this life is.
Right.
That like everything in this world can be taken away for 2
change,
seconds.
Yeah.
If you don't have the foundation of the Lord, I looked around at my life and was like, what do I have if I don't have that?
So your faith has been the consistency for you. It's been that ground, that foundation.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm interested to know the second time that you were with your boyfriend. Did you this time carry on going to church and doing this, having the same practices, or did that fall away again?
I definitely did. It would come and go. I think if you're not on the same page faith-wise in a relationship, it's really hard.
It's a massive value.
Right, exactly.
It's the same way that you should look at financial values or family values and things, I think.
I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
So we definitely like went back and forth on certain things, but for the most part, he was a Christian.
Okay.
And then once we broke up, I mean, he's now gone completely a different direction. But I think in a lot of ways, I was what was keeping him in his faith.
Yeah.
For better or worse. But yeah, I definitely pursued the Lord in a really real way after going down a slightly bad road for a second right after we broke up, because that's sometimes what you do when you're grieving.
Absolutely.
But it really was New Year's of last year where I was like, okay, God, whatever you want for my life, I don't care what that looks like. I want just more of you.
And how is that impacting your life in present day then? How are you involved in how are you practicing your faith? How often is this a part of your daily life? Is this just like a Sunday school thing?
Right. So church, definitely go to church, super involved in my church, which I love. I drive 45 minutes to go to my church because I love it. I also serve within my church, which is great. But I think more than that, I've always gone to church. So many people go to church.
Right.
So that's awesome, but that's like a really good first step.
Yeah.
I believe like scripture is the one thing, like reading my Bible, I try to do every single day.
Every day,
is the thing that like roots me there and makes the relationship with God more personal, because I think in a lot of ways of like talking about religion, and especially all over the world, people have different standpoints of what's religion, what's this, and it's about so many rules of you can do this or you can't do this or whatever else. But being able to read scripture and really develop a personal relationship with the Lord has been the biggest thing of just strengthening my faith, where I feel like now my faith is strengthened every single day, which is really cool.
That's nice. And you find it's something that's keeping you grounded.
Yeah. And for a lot of it, it is discipline, because I'm now trying to read through the whole Bible this year, which is going to be really cool. But I'm in the Old Testament, which is so boring. So boring. But
I'm glad you can say that. I'm glad you can say that. I said to Mackenzie before we even started that I was a little bit nervous about approaching this subject, because it can be really polarizing. We're friends. We have completely different beliefs, and that's fine. And I think it's great that you can see both sides.
Right, absolutely.
The Old Testament is boring.
It is. It absolutely is. But it's cool to see that there used to be all of these rules in the Old Testament, and then Jesus came and eradicated those rules.
And
We're
it's
now
more of a free will.
Exactly, where now we get to have this relationship with him, and it's beautiful, and it's based on love and grace, and
it fits into your normal life.
Right, exactly.
You're not doing anything wildly different. It fits into your normal life. I love that. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm interested as well to hear about your experience of faith when you were in the UK, because as I mentioned, I went to a Church of England school. At that age, it was even less impactful than it would have been for you at like slightly older going to a church school. I didn't know any different. This was my first ever education, so I didn't know any different. I wasn't invested in it. We sung hymns, and I thought everybody did that.
Right.
Like I had no idea that this was just because I was at a church school at the time. So it didn't really impact my life. My parents aren't particularly religious. I was christened when I was a baby, so I have no memory of that. And generally, having lived in the UK for 27 years of my life, I didn't really come across it very often.
Right.
And something that I noticed as soon as we moved to America, I'm obviously following people on social media, wanting to get to know different areas and culture, and so I'm following people similar age, similar style. This is how I came across your account and things like that. And religion is present in a lot of their content, and I just don't, I mean, I know that you just don't find that in the UK.
Right.
So when you went there, did you find it hard to find the same kind of community, or what were the differences?
I was fortunate enough to move with a friend who is also very strong in her faith. So we made that a big priority of we want to at least find a church. We're not necessarily, we're here for 5 months. We want to make friends, but we don't necessarily need that huge church community.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But we found a church. It was called St. Aldate's.
Okay.
It was within the Church of England. And it was honestly pretty similar in a lot of ways to
the
what
services
we were used
and things.
to.
I mean, it's the same Bible.
Right, exactly, right. So it should be, but
Yeah.
no, you say that to
I know. Maybe I should undo that.
There's a million different denominations in America. And
and that's also what makes me nervous, is that from the outside looking in, it's hard for me to tell which is which, what's what, and what.
Right, exactly.
It's very confusing. I think in the UK, religion is fairly black and white, the ones that you learn about at any school, you know. And here there are lots of different denominations.
Right, exactly. It's like denominations, and then you get into the South. I went and visited a friend, and she's like, oh yeah, there's this cult over here, but they believe some religious stuff, but I'm like, what on earth? Like, that's so confusing.
Yeah.
And it is confusing.
Yeah.
I go to a non-denominational church, so they just disassociate from any denomination and basically say, we believe what the Bible says, nothing more, nothing less.
Okay.
Which is like,
Very
that keeps it very
basic, very black and white, and you
Right.
can interpret it in your own
exactly.
way.
Absolutely.
I like that. That's nice.
Right, rooted in scripture over anything else, not rules and regulations.
And when you were going to services in the UK, the services being the same, did you find like the people at the church were the same? Or was it more of an older population? Or
There was honestly a decent amount because of Oxford Uni being right there, and because of Brooks. There was a decent amount of younger like students, and my friend who I moved with was a little bit younger than me. So we went to a college age night where there was actually like university students who were like worshiping the Lord. There was definitely like slight things about the church that were different, obviously, like anything. But there was a lot of younger people, which I was very shocked about. However, we'd have a lot of conversations with them that we were talking about our friend group back home saying, oh, a lot of us in this tiny circle are Christians and we led a discipleship group or whatever else. They were like, you'll never find a friend group in the UK where like everyone's a Christian. Like, I don't know any Christians. They're like, we know like those two people who are Christians, but outside of that, no one is. Like, you're never going to find that in the UK. And we were like, oh, that's so interesting. Didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I definitely think it's any belief is harder to find.
Right.
And I don't think everybody's going to say, oh, well, it's a smaller country. But I really don't think that it's that. I think, and I think America definitely has this view that everybody is Church of England because of Christmas and holidays and all of these things that we celebrate, Easter. But it is much more of a mixed bag, and there's a lot more atheist in the UK. I think from my very short time in America versus a pretty long time in the UK, that's the impression and the opinion that I've got.
You're coming into a little bit of a melting pot too. Florida's definitely got all of it, whereas the South, it's like largely Southern Baptist. Utah, it's all Mormon. Up north, it's a lot of atheists, I would say. Not many people have a relationship with the Lord up there. So it's really all over, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I would love to get to know more about the different communities as I travel around as well. And like you say, the Mormon, I follow Emily Kaiser. Do you follow Emily Kaiser?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So I've heard a little bit about that through her, and I'm like, it is like another world. So I'm
my gosh, it's
fascinated.
To your point about you don't know what anyone believes or like whatever else. I dated a Mormon on accident.
Really?
For like 2 months.
Without knowing? Or without knowing at least when you started
knowing when
dating?
I started, and then it's very different. They have a whole nother book, which is the Book of Mormon, which is developed in the U.S. in the 1800s. Oh. Which is interesting to me. I learned a lot through that relationship.
Yeah.
It was interesting.
And look, no faith. Your faith, everybody. It's not for everyone.
Right, exactly.
But it's. I find it
so
all very interesting.
Very fascinating.
Very fascinating to see what other people. I really appreciate you taking the time to.
Oh my gosh, of course.
Explain that to me, and I'm interested, and would love to come to a service at some point.
Yes, I would love that.
I know the timing today hasn't worked out, but if it's 45 minutes south, then that's
it's
half
not
the distance for me.
Too bad for you. Right, exactly.
I would love to come and visit and see what that's about.
I will say the last thing that was so shocking, there was a pub in our church.
What?
In England.
Okay, that I did not know.
And
inside the church?
Inside
serving
the church.
alcohol?
I drank a beer in my church.
Wow.
And that in America is like...
Okay, now I feel like I'm missing out.
I was like, what is going on? It's like a Sunday night, and I'm like cracking open a beer with some guys, and I'm like, this is so interesting.
Right. See, when we did, I mean, obviously because we were kids as well, like even the bread and the wine, it was grape juice or whatever.
Right. So when I took communion in the Church of England, I'm like, this is the strongest alcohol I've ever had. I'm like, this is crazy. The view on alcohol within the church is very different in the UK versus here.
Interesting.
Where Americans... A lot of Christians in America are like, no alcohol whatsoever. Like, for a minute, I didn't post that I drank alcohol at all on social media because I was afraid that I was going to get hated for it.
Like that wasn't part of your community you're supposed to be a part of.
Right, exactly. And in the UK, they're like, no, why do you guys like make alcohol such a big deal?
Yeah.
In America, we really do. It's true. Where it's like, if you're drinking, you have to get drunk. No, you can have a glass of wine, you can have a beer. It's all right. And that was something I learned in the UK that I'm really appreciative for.
Right.
It's very cool.
That you've brought back here a little bit for yourself at least.
Right.
Maybe
right.
not for
Absolutely.
others.
Right. I'm like, guys, because in your teens and 20s, it's like you got to get hammered if you're drinking.
Right.
Like, no, you don't. You can just enjoy it, and that can be that.
Yeah. Okay. Are there any rules that you do follow that you find difficult, or anything, even if you were, wanting to go just to a church service on a Sunday? Are there particular things that you can and can't do, even at that sort of arm's distance level of
So it's
practicing?
there's nothing within, at least my church, and speaking for most non-denominational churches, if you do something, it's not like the church is going to shun you or be like, you're not included in this anymore, you're not a Christian. As Christians, we understand that sin is so real, and doing things, we're going to sin every single day. You're going to fall short of what Jesus is, because Jesus is perfect. And there's things that you can do to walk more in righteousness.
Yeah.
You're not doing it because it's a rule. You're doing it because that enables you to get closer to Jesus.
I suppose that's something that's always made me a little bit standoffish, I suppose, with religion and faith, is because of I just want to live my life.
Right, exactly.
I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to,
Yep.
drink.
Right, exactly. Right.
Not to get drunk, but
Right.
all of these things that you, from the outside looking in, again, it feels like you have to change your whole life to have a faith.
Right, and I try, especially on like my podcast and my Instagram, to be like, I am not perfect.
Yeah.
I mess up all the time, and I have messed up all the time. But I've noticed in the periods in my life when I have walked in sin, of things that the scripture says stay away from.
Yeah.
Sure, I thought I was living in freedom when I was sleeping around, when I was living in resentment, when I was living in unforgiveness towards people, or I was bitter, or whatever else. I thought that was freedom because I was doing what I wanted and I was going directly against what God says to do. He doesn't say, do this because it's a rule and you need to follow it. He says, do this because I love you.
Yeah.
And when I was living that life, which was probably a little over a year ago, I just felt so broken and so trapped. I would pursue one sin, and next thing I know is leading me to another sin, and then another sin, and the next thing I know I looked to myself in the mirror and I had no idea who I was.
Right.
And I found that when I am obeying what scripture says, it doesn't feel like a trap at all. It doesn't feel like I'm in chains. I feel free because of it.
Okay.
So those rules, quote unquote, which I hate calling rules, feels more like freedom to me than anything else. Like actually abiding in his word and letting the Holy Spirit lead me in life is such freedom to me.
Okay. I love that. I think we should end on that.
Yeah, love it.
Like that.
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.